Hey guys, what's up? It's Tim with the Juice Compound and Gym and Juice Facility Programming. I am really excited to go over the upcoming 12-week training cycle that we designed for you. It's going to run from July 9th through our final testing week of September 24 to 29 later this summer, actually starting in the fall, which will transition into our final training block of the year. We're coming out of our post-open training block where we focus on a lot of absolute strength, both upper body and lower body, longer aerobic conditioning, and some top-end conditioning work. I want to go over in this video what our training priorities are and the methods of what we're going to use to help get you and your members there. Okay, so starting off, the first thing I want to make sure I mention, even though it's here at the bottom, are three goal-based avatars, right? And that is fitness or function for those that are using fitness for functional bodybuilding and body composition, our performance track, and our sport track, right? All of these fit into one class. So when we talk about these, you'll see the deviations in the programming of how we make appropriate dose responses for each group relative to their goals, right? Each of these are goal-based. They are not hard metric-based of you can't do this until here. That we want to make sure we're helping always do what's right for our members in this, and you'll see the changes there. So we'll start off with the training priorities. Okay, last cycle for upper body absolute strength, we did a lot of work, a lot of support work in rows, isometric and eccentric holds, building up to 1 rep max weighted pull-up, right? So this part, we're going to be building that absolute strength into density for advanced gymnastics work. So where we're rebuilding pieces of, let's say the muscle up or handstand push-ups, increasing their ability to do a max effort. That came in the form of deficit strict handstand push-ups for sport, strict handstand push-up AMRAPs for performance, and then seated press for our fitness and function groups. Those will now be coming into density pieces, meaning we're going to be expanding how much they can do of them relative to just doing one. Right, so we raise the ceiling of it. Now we want to build out. Same thing for the upper body pulling, right? So we did a lot of work building up to that weighted strict pull-up max, increasing their body's ability to pull their own weight and then some, hopefully, right? That is going to turn into now we want, say for our sport people, they're increasing the amount of muscle ups they can do, and that's density in sets, right? For our performance people, hopefully it means that the extra upper body pulling, extra upper body pushing from all the close grip bench press, seated press, weighted ring dips, etc., that we did to raise their ceiling. Now we're able to transform those new pieces into skill. And that skill would be, hopefully for many of them, if it's getting a muscle up, and that's good. If it's being able to do more pull-ups in a row unbroken, say in a workout, or with less pauses between, or to recharge sooner, that would be density there. They can do these over and over really well. So we're turning that into these parts here for upper body, from upper body absolute strength to advanced gymnastic movement and then density of those movements. And that will look like, for the test, it'll look like this. For sport, will be 5 minute, I don't know why I did my hand like that, 5 minute AMRAP of unbroken max muscle ups into remaining time max muscle ups in the remaining time of 5 minutes. For performance, it will be that they are attempting to do muscle ups for a set number, but their test will be 5 minute AMRAP, unbroken chest to bar pull-ups, remaining time, how many can they get, right? So we're trying to see how much can they do in that density piece, but then also recharge to come back to do that well. And then for fitness and function, it'll be either a ring row variation at a tempo, or for our newer people, working on just good rows before we push them to a max effort, right? Because we're always doing what's right for our clients. That would be something that was going to come up in the testing here for them. And that's probably one of our top priorities, is getting that in there, because upper body strength, endurance is a huge limiter for most people coming into the gym. Number 2 is we went from lower body absolute strength, and we're going to take this and go to strength speed. That means we're going to do more weightlifting, right? Last cycle, we did a whole bunch of rebuilding the pieces for that, right? We worked on, say, heavy back squats, and then we worked on tall cleans, jerk balance, snatch balance, the pieces we wanted to do. Then when we put the absolute strength from the squat or absolute strength from the pull, now those strength speed movements have the support they need to express the power from having better technique and more strength. We put that together, boom, we should do really well. We're going to start off with OE complexes. The reason we want to do that is it will keep their overall percentage low, because the percentage of OE we were doing before was pretty low. We had power cleans heavy, but the rest of the more full classic lifts were much more technical, 50, 60, 70%. So for OE complexes, we'll start there, and it's going to build up into 1 rep maxes there, especially in the form of power snatch. So we went from power clean, snatching was the reworking part that we did for overhead squats, into power snatch now, and then with the back squat, I'm going to go into clean and jerk, full classic clean and jerk there, right? So that's going to be OE complexes into 1 rep maxes, lower body, absolute strength, endurance, and support movements will be there to help keep the strength numbers going up. And that will look like a lot of front squat, some back squat still, accessory pulls, where I went from, say, deadlift, now it might look more like halting deadlift, pausing snatch grip deadlift, extensions, probably not high pulls as much this cycle versus clean extensions, because I want to keep the load higher than we might later, right? And we know when she starts trying to get the arms to extend on the pulls, the weight drops drastically, right? So that's going to be the lower body focus into the OE work for strength speed on this part. CP battery plus aerobic will become a priority, right? Last cycle, we worked on building up the 1 rep in power clean. This cycle, we're going to be integrating that with aerobic work at high percentages, building up on that. The goal, if we just throw in, oh, hey, I get it, 18.2 had, front squats and burpees. Okay, cool, and a clean after it. So we should just do cleans after everything. Maybe, or we can systematically train that we increase their aerobic capacity with the CP work on the end, and that means it's going to be something like this. 1 set every 3 minutes, climbing in weight, run 400 meters, remaining time, 1 power clean, working up in weight. Next week might be something, maybe we add in run 400 meters, 8 burpees, something they can do still fairly easily, plus a power clean. Next week might be 1 set every 3 minutes, run 400 meters, 8 burpees, plus last week's tough weight across all 8 sets of a power clean. So see how we're increasing the both aerobic output to challenge the CP part of there. Maybe it's a power clean. It might be another movement as we vary the exercise selection through this, but just for argument or explanation's sake. And then we increase that aerobic output. But the goal this cycle is to increase our body's ability to make a really hard contraction at the end of aerobic pieces. Cycles later, then we start doing it with wall ball, this and that. Then you go do a power clean, and eventually it is what was 18.2? Something nasty, right? 5, 6, 7 minutes, it is getting kicked in the teeth, and now recover fast from additional aerobic backbone to support that, as well as going from lactic power into lactic endurance in our recovery in those hard contractions. Which brings us to our next part. We're focusing on this cycle, lactic power, with moderate complexity in the movements. What does that mean? Okay, last cycle we went from anaerobic alactic, again trying to raise the ceiling on high power output. That was those 100-meter row repeats, 10 cals in the air bike rest, hard up to that 60-second tester. This time we're going to go up here lactic power, so still shorter intervals, but they should be hard. The exercise selection that will accompany that will be moderate complexity. So I would say low complexity would be a row plus a burpee and a burpee box jump over. Low complexity, most people can do that immediately. Moderate starts meaning that it's not going to be 1 rep max here. It's not going to be max muscle ups here. It's things that we should be able to do with really good density and recovery that are probably going to be under 50% of what our max output will be there, or around there, 50 to 67% probably of output, depending on rep ranges, to get that response we're looking for, right? So again, we started off with high output, anaerobic alactic. This next part, we're going to lactic power, and in the fall, that'll go to lactic endurance. And then for the open, we go to the blend, which is my favorite thing, is when we go to the blend. I'm not going to talk about that now. That's later. That's the good stuff. But the blend is coming. But first, we have to still increase the ceiling, right? So hopefully you're seeing how we're doing that systematically. Increase the ceiling of absolute strength, and then turn it into something. Increase the ceiling of our absolute strength lower body and use that to express our power with all weight. Right? We increased our ceiling of anaerobic lactic output, the highest, hardest output we can do, and now we're turning that into things that look a little more like CrossFit. Right? It's not quite CrossFit yet until there's a 45 or a 2-minute test in the open. Not, I mean, they've never just done Fran. It's always like Fran and a whole bunch more reps. But until then, this is still a piece that we're building to get to lactic endurance, which we want to get to, and then they'll blend, right? Finally, the last priority I'm going to talk about today is aerobic power. Last cycle, we did a long aerobic work because we were building up to MRF with low complexity movements, right? It was pull-ups or strict pull-ups into push-ups and squats or lunges or wall, again, pretty low on the complexity side. That's good because we start off low so we can work our engines through either the breathing aspect or through muscle endurance, right? Muscle endurance, we're not going to start with complexity. Push-ups were a great place to start. That's something that the limiter is not technique. The limiter is, do you have oxygen in for your muscles to refire again? Is there enough, whatever you need, enough CP, enough glycogen, enough of your body to contract or not? Okay, so that's why we start there. Now we're adding in moderate contractions and moderate complexity, right? And moderate contraction rate too. So it's not going to be boom, 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 where it's a whole bunch of really fast contractions. It'll be moderate pace, right? With the contractions, we go slower to faster where we want to go, right? So for here, these movements and selections will be strength, speed, endurance, and absolute speed endurance. So that might be heavier kettlebell swings for deeper reps, but we can still turn it over. Or if we do that too soon, the break is going to be CP battery, right? 70 pounds, 5 swings, put it down, 5 swings, put it down. That's not aerobic power anymore. That's stunted, that's blunted, right? So we increase the absolute strength, increase the strength endurance there. Here now we have strength, speed, endurance, which might be, that'd be a movement that might be appropriate, a light Ollie lift there in the hang power clean at a moderate load. Or absolute speed endurance. So things like box jumps, but higher reps. They're getting, to where sets of 25 without stopping are just now part of the workout there, and you're able to move through that without, again, it being blunted. So we're increasing the endurance portion here. And then next cycle, what? We increase complexity, we increase the rate of contraction, we increase the loads. But now you can handle those versus it's just too much, I just can't do that weight. Well, now it's not aerobic power. And now you just keep conditioning CP the entire cycle, which is cool. I like CP. But that's, we're just killing it all. Actually, we're not letting that system recharge to express it fully. Finally, the muscle endurance will be sub-maximal gymnastics. That means for aerobic power, we're not going to be doing advanced gymnastics density movements. So there won't be 3 rounds for time, run 400 meters, 12 muscle ups, 9 deficit strict handstand push-ups. That won't be aerobic power for most people in the cycle, right? That wouldn't be there. So it might be run plus some, let's say, double unders plus some kipping handstand push-ups. Yeah, maybe that works in there. But it's at a level and a rep range that you can still keep moving. So it'll probably most be kipping pull-ups, toes to bar, burpees, those type of movements where they are not at your max effort. If they are in there, the rep range will be low enough. Let's say your rep max effort muscle-ups is 12. You'll probably be doing 3 muscle-ups for your conditioning piece for sport. If your max kipping pull-ups, let's say it's 25, which is why that 5-minute density test is going to be good for us to know. Because let's say you get 25, probably the sets and reps there might be run 400, 12 swings, 5 chest to bar pull-ups, go. Because you can keep 5 the entire time. And then what do? Right? We increase the endurance or the density of it. And that's how we're going to do that, building into this cycle for our retesters. And hopefully you see how that positions us really, really well for the fall when we want to do more lactic endurance work, not all day, right, in pieces and touches, but we will be doing that, right, with more complexity. It won't be low, it'll be lactic endurance, will be with moderate complexity movements. LP or aerobic power might have higher complexity in there now, right? And it might say, hey, now these EMOMs here for the density pieces make it more challenging. It might be run now and do your muscle ups versus just do them and wait. depending on the rate of progression here. So that's where we're going with the priorities. Hopefully that makes sense. These, of course, will be broken down for fitness, performance, sport, so each group can express the priorities, right? What aerobic power, what muscle endurance, sub-maximal gymnastics means for someone in fitness, right, is very different than what it means for someone in sport, right? That doesn't mean you just scale a muscle up, right? Well, they're going to do muscle ups, so you do a bunch of crappy dips and you do a bunch of, pull-ups that maybe aren't right. It's going to look like movements that they can express still at rep ranges where they hit muscle endurance, if that's the goal, or they can express the engine, the aerobic system properly without being blunted there for the aerobic power. So that's how we're going to do that in our training. The methods, let me see if I can, I think I can still stay on the side. Who knows? Right? We're actually, I'll go over here. Let's see how it works. We're trying stuff, right? It's going to be 3 4-week cycles this time. Last cycle, we did 4 3-week cycles, and it went Monday was the same 3 Mondays in a row, Tuesday was the same 3, and then we flipped training focuses, priorities, intensities, etc., rep ranges, sets, yada, yada, yada. This one, we are going Monday, Tuesday on 4. We're going to go back and forth. So it'll go, so for the cycle that goes for 4 weeks, it'll go Monday. Next week, that progression is going to be a Tuesday. Next week's a Monday. Next week's a Tuesday. And the reason we're doing that is we wanted longer cycles. But I also understand that if we just do a longer cycle, it's the same, it can get very boring. The reason we want longer cycles is because there's so much skill accumulation that we're putting into work now. So we need more reps. Okay, and if we do more reps, that's good. We get better at things. But what happens is, you only come on Mondays and you're like, yeah, I just do that on Mondays. This is, I guess, CrossFit is just this. I guess this gym just does this. So we want to make sure we are doing that. And that's how we're going to work this. And it works really well, especially when this is planned in advance. You can see it. And then with the longer cycles, if you do have people that just come on their day, they will get a progression. They still get a couple reps of each. And the ones that come consistently still get the full progression, right? Because they're coming consistently. Good for them. So we're helping both groups meet their goals really well. Second part, important dates. Many testers will be on weeks 4 and 8 in the final week of week 12. That means 7:30, the week of 7:30, July, 7:30. Many testers. That doesn't mean it's all testing there. We're going to retest everything from the start of the cycle. There's little things we do. And let's take that 5-minute max muscle up unbroken piece. And we're working on advanced gymnastics density. It might be at 4 weeks that you go, okay, everyone's doing 3 max effort sets with 3 minutes rest in between. So if it was muscle ups or chest to bar pull-ups, it might be, boom, hit out your 25, right? Now rest, 3 minutes, go again. Are you at 21? Or are you at 11, right? Are you recovering? And eventually we put that into what would be an AMRAP of 5 minutes. So that's how we do mini tests. Some of these we do the full test again. And those usually that come in the 4th week have less of an overall effect, I want to say, less of an overall hit to you. Meaning we're probably not doing full clean and jerk retests or full deadlift retests every 4 weeks. But we might do hang squat clean week 4. We might do below the knee squat clean, right, that week and positional work. And we might do, or a 4, we might do a hang squat clean and do a push jerk, right? See how we're building that into a full retest of clean and jerk. So that way it gives you good insights. It gives them a drop in volume and a raise in intensity, but it also helps you gauge where they want to track on there and what adjustments as a coach they need for the training. Finally, functional bodybuilding. Where does it fit into this cycle? Last cycle, we were doing that a lot at the start of the training, right? Especially the first month, we did a lot of that on block A. It was a lot of single arm and unilateral work, balancing left to right, a lot of time under tension. That's still going to happen. That's still good. We still love it. Because priorities are starting to shift, that will go to support at the end. So that looks like both absolute strength work still in here, even though it's not the #1 priority, right? Priority means the things we're doing the most focus on. But let's take the Oli, for example. You want to get better at Oli, and you start doing your, where do we write it? Our strength, right? We start with our complexes that we're going here, building up to our 1 rep maxes. We go from absolute strength to strength speed, right from there. If all we do is work on strength speed, in the short term, we can express it a little better. But if we don't have that absolute strength as support, we're not going to get stronger. Our numbers don't go up, right? Because Ollie lifters, everyone says, oh, it's the clean and jerks that make you strong. It is the expression of their strength and speed there that they do, the absolute strength work, right? If you work with Ollie lifters, they are incredibly strong and absolute strengths, and they are also just really great across the board. That's why Shane Hammond, U.S. heavyweight on an Olympic team, I lived with him at the Olympic Training Center for a long time, and this guy was big dude, and he could do a backflip, and he could clean and jerk over 500 pounds. So he was good at absolute speed and good at strength speed and good at absolute strength and good at all of it, right? So there's a lot to be learned from that approach. So functional bodybuilding here is going to be support at the end of training because we're moving other things up to get better at the muscle ups, right? The high time under tension, high muscular growth that we wanted on that first part of the cycle, right? And now we're transitioning that to expressing the strength that we gained in these gymnastics movements or Ollie movements, but we still need to make sure that everyone has the basic support they need and they continue to look good naked and feel awesome. That stuff makes you feel great. So we're still going with it. And that is our cycle running July 9 to September 29. If you have questions, shoot me an email, tim@juicecompound.com, and I will talk to you very soon.